Hi, my name is Jackie Lewis. Jackie's on the Reef. I'm the owner of Jackie's on the Reef in Negril, Jamaica. I'm so happy to have the opportunity to interview Andrew Steve. Andrew is a practitioner of the Celtic tradition, something that very few of us really have ever heard of or have ever known anything about. He is from what they call the British Isles, which is Scotland, Ireland, and...
It's England, Wales,
yes, Wales.
And Scotland.
Yes, England, Wales, and Scotland. Hey, Andrew, how are you today?
I'm beautiful, thank you, Jackie.
You know, you just finished the most incredible workshop at Jackie's on the Reef this week. And I was so touched by all of the people who came to your workshop, who were so involved in what you're doing, the work. I've never really met a group of people who were so spiritual and conscious and really were interested in doing what they're doing.
Yes.
It's obvious to you that they're responding to.
Well, my heart is in this work. It's important work, it's authentic work. And this week we weaved with the dragon lines and we had the opportunity to sing home Displaced Souls.
Can you really explain a little bit about the displaced souls?
Yes. What called me here, Jackie, was I like to work medicine of place. And a few years ago, I discovered that my great-grandfather, my great-great-grandfather, who were Scottish lairds, were white slave traffickers, as well as traffickers of slaves out of Africa. And we know, in the British Isles, we know about the Africans who were stolen from their homes. Very little is talked about the Celtic people who were placed into servitude and slavery. And my skin colour doesn't do too well in the bright sunlight. People taken from the Celtic lands who came here, as all people who've been displaced, struggled. And not only are we talking about the Africans and the people from the Celtic lands, we're talking of the indigenous people of these lands who were displaced when people came over from the West and invaded, and so many souls do not go home.
Christopher Columbus, right?
Right.
Originally, there were the Arawaks and the Taino Indians
Yep.
here, which you do not find. I don't think there are too many families or people that are left from the Arawaks or the Taino
Right.
Indian.
Right.
So, what you were doing, you were singing and opening up the gates
Yes.
for these displaced souls
Yes.
to return.
Yes.
That was just fantastic.
I do believe that's one of the big reasons I'm on Planet Earth, Planet Water. In walking into this work and stirring it deeply in my own bones, because it is incredibly deep work, and a strong container needs to be held. And the people that came, they got it. And we can only go as deep as those who come to do the work with us.
Everyone who came was ready to do the work.
Absolutely.
It was just phenomenal.
I-
It was like, and you know what? It was very much what I really began to understand more, that everyone really accepted the fact that they were little fairies.
Yeah.
I related to that so much
Yeah.
because I know that in one of my past lives, I was a fairy.
Yeah.
So, it sounds kind of hokey pokey, but it's really serious work.
If you look at our stories, the thing to say is in the Celtic world, we forgot we're indigenous. We moved so far away from the earth, the air, the fire, the waters, and yet our stories are full of the Fae, the She, of dragons. And as I've explored the stories of the Mabinogion and the Tuatha De Danann and our folklore, what I've discovered is there's a blueprint of our medicine way.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then you add to that going and listening to the land, which I do a great deal of. I spend a lot of time in caves, in the woods, by the sea, at holy wells, in all kinds of nematons, and listening. I have been gifted the ways of our ancestors, and as people came together this last week, the first thing we needed to do was cleanse ourselves. And we spent a good part of the workshop releasing, cleansing, so that we could be the hollow bone. And then, when we were ready, we could help others. And we could allow more to flow through us because we were open and cleansed. And that's the way it is. We have to be authentic. We have to work in integrity and do our own work, because if we don't do our own work, how can we help anybody else?
It's so interesting you're saying that, because also from the Celtic tradition, it's the same thing in all the old traditions.
Yes.
So from, like, for instance, the Indians, American Indians, the African, all of the traditions, are the same. They've all started from nature.
Yes.
It was all the earth, the sun, the moon, little spirits, and the animals, because I noticed that you have one of your goddesses, I think it is, the different goddesses you have for your tradition, but one of them was the keeper of the sheep or the yak.
Oh, well, Bridget is a fertility goddess. Bridget's a midwife. She is the goddess, a triple goddess of healing, poetry, and smithcraft. As the midwife, she is there for the birthing of spring. In the Celtic lands, as we go through the dark half of the year at Samhain, and it's said that the Cailleach takes her hammer and hits the ground and everything freezes over. At Imbolc, Bridget dips her hand into the waters and releases the waters. And one of the translations of Imbolc is ewes milk, because it's the flowing of milk, and milk is seen as the poetry of life. Very much in a human birth, the first drink you ever have is milk, and that is said to be the source of poetry, which is connected to Bridget. She is someone who helps us with creativity and is all about abundance.
Wow.
Absolutely.
How many other different deities are there?
There's many, and as I've explored this work, the more that I know, the more that I know that I don't know, and it is a journey. It's my life journey, and as I have sat and I work with the Morrigan, who is the crow or raven goddess, the goddess of battle. And she is also a goddess of sovereignty, a goddess of the earth. I work with the sun god Lu. I work with Ogma, the poetic warrior. I work with the Dagda. I work with Maeve, who will teach you if you, and I love that about Maeve and the Cailleach, Bera or Ceridwen as she's known by. These are strong goddesses, and if you're not doing your work, they'll let you know. You can't play with this. It's like any medicine way.
Right.
When people start playing, that's when they create more chaos. And really, I liken myself to a janitor. I say I have a drum and a beater. It's like a mop and a bucket. Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The other night that we went to Rory River,
Yes.
to the cave,
Yes.
that was just phenomenal.
It really
The singing. Now you were singing the soul of the bones, which goddess is that?
Well, that's Cailleach. We entered. Every time you go into a cave, as you know, you're entering the womb of the mother, and so we were going to the depths, and that's where the bone mother at Samhain collects the bones of the dead, and so we went in to work with our own release and our own cleansing. And as we were coming into the other pool, we worked with Bridget, who is the midwife, so we were going through our own birthing.
Okay.
And that way we had emptied so that we could then look at what we were planting in us, strands of freedom for the souls who were displaced, who were in captivity, in slavery, who didn't have the kind of freedom that you and I have. So often what we do in the world is we enslave ourselves. And so in honor of these souls, we were expanding to live our lives with more freedom, so that we can celebrate all beings. Because as we live with more love, with more freedom, allowing our creativity out, it shifts the world. Yeah.
Wow. How did you get involved with this group?
Well, as a kid, as a child, I loved going into the woods, and I sensed there was more. I'd go to school, and I didn't want to be sitting behind the desk. There was more, and I was searching. It actually took me leaving my own homeland to understand the depth of the medicine. And I went to the United States, which is somewhere that I didn't really, in my early life, think I would ever choose to go to. Because I saw the United States for McDonald's and Mickey Mouse, and it wasn't somewhere that called me. And it was in 1989. I didn't have any money to go anywhere else, and I was paid to go on Camp America. And I met people from the United States, and people wherever you go, there are people of light and people of dark. And I met so many beautiful people. I ended up staying in the United States, and my calling was to know the story of the United States, beyond the United States. Because people went, the land you come from is an old land. This is a young land. And I'm like, no, it's not. This land is ancient. And so it took me onto a dance on the Red Road, which actually took me home to my own path, which I call the Green Road. And in going down to Alabama, of all places, sacred Cherokee land, working with a Lakota medicine man and woman, working the ghost dance, the sacred all-night healing dance. And what the medicine people shared with me as I discovered more about the Red Road and different ceremonies and the ways to connect, they said to me, this medicine is strong. This medicine will serve you. Your own medicine is stronger. And that awakened me to the fact that we had our own medicine. And you saw my daughter, who's now 22.
Amazing. Just amazing.
Beautiful, light soul. And I chose to have both my son and daughter know their roots. And so they explored both the Red Road and the Green Road. And my daughter, you've seen her, she is drinking from the cauldron.
Yes.
And she already is a powerful medicine woman.
Yes.
And I know as she grows,
yeah,
she will help a lot of people.
Well, you know, as I said to you yesterday, the fruit does not come too far from the tree. So obviously you brought her into this world, but she knew who you were and she came to you to learn and to be guided.
And it was her choice.
Yes.
It was always her choice. I left it open. You know, we lived when the last year I lived in the United States, she was 17, my son was 19. For that year, we lived in an argument-free zone. And when I go into schools and I share this with teachers and youth and I say, how did we manage that? And some say, you never saw each other?
That's right. Most people have no concept of how to live free of argument.
Yes. Well, what we did is, and the one thing we always did, every night we would have our dinner together. We would have our meal together,
yes,
and we would share our day, all of the pieces of our day. The key was we listened to each other.
Which is very seldom do people listen to each other. People talk, but they don't hear what is being said.
Yes.
So it's so important. That's fantastic that you've raised your children to understand that.
And the importance was that they then could find their voice, and I wasn't going to shoot down their opinions, their ideas. Sometimes I would go, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, hello.
And then they were open to go, well, what's your perspective, Dad? And then I would give them my perspective without saying, this is the right way.
Yeah.
It's only a perspective.
Right.
And so we shared perspectives, and that way we learned from each other. Yeah.
Right. Can you explain the dragon lines is the same thing as the ley lines?
Yes.
So can you explain a little bit about the dragon lines? In fact, one of your participants, Karen, made this dragon, which is, I just love it. But she made it out of bread.
Yeah.
And made it into a really beautiful little dragon. So can you explain a little bit more about the dragon lines?
Okay, I just want to say something about this wee one first, because I love what Karen did. It's all natural materials, and she started making them with a different kind of glue, and she put them outside and noticed that they didn't decompose. And so she went, no, these need to be made out of natural materials. I needed to put that in there, because everything that we do is for the highest good of all beings.
Okay.
In working the ley lines, it was the dragons who came to me. Ley lines in the British Isles today, they often will refer to them as the St. Michael and St. Mary line. That came in with Christianity. The old name was the Serpent Lines or the Dragon Lines. Glastonbury Tor has a serpent or a dragon that's carved by the Neolithics that goes all the way up to the top, and it's in the number 8, so it's an octave. So when you walked with the dragon and you moved with that dragon, you then went to a different realm. These lines, they snake across the earth, through the sea. They're all over the place. And at certain points they cross, and it's like a chakra point, a huge energy point.
A chakra point.
Chakra point, like the chakras in our bodies.
Yeah.
Well, that's the Earth's body, and so they're power centers. Well, as I started working with the dragons many moons ago, I thought the dragons were waking up, and then they said to me, "You're funny. We're not waking up. It's you that are waking up. We have been here waiting for you." And so we work a medicine called Amran, which is part of our indigenous medicine, where we let the song sing through us. And it's multi-level, this Amran, and I work with it with the dragon lines. And so we open ourselves and we invite the dragons to work with us. And then I literally climb on the back of the dragons and fly with them.
Wow.
And we go to the east, the south, the west, and the north, and then we come to the center. And as we do this, we're charging up the lines all across the planet. So they go through the sea, they go through the earth, we take them through the fires, through the air. And the more that I've been doing the work, the more that I realize the dragon lines are charging and more are appearing. And before I came here, I worked at Course House in Aberdeenshire, where I live, and we lit a fire on February the 14th, 2014, which is a full moon, and it snowed, and we went out in the snow. It was absolutely beautiful, and we weaved those lines, connecting them to Jamaica, to Negril, to Jackie's on the Reef, and we connected them to Canada, because I was going to 2 different places in Canada to work, and then we took them to all places and the spaces between the spaces. It's something that we could talk about it a great deal, but as you saw, it's not the talking, it's the doing, it's the becoming and being. And once it's in your bones. I had people here this week that had never worked with dragons, and they got it.
Wow.
They got it, because it goes deep.
What do those lines actually do in the earth? Are they? You said that they are the chakra points.
Yes.
Because I'm under the belief that Jamaica is on one of those chakra points.
I would say it's probably on several. The cave that we were in, there's a heartbeat there. So as we sing, the energy amplifies. And so we're raising consciousness. And as the consciousness is raised in the lines, so the consciousness is raised in all beings. Yeah.
It's interesting, because when I first came to Jamaica to build this, I used to go, someone took me to Roaring River. And the Roaring River at that time, there was no lights, there was no sidewalk. They used to go use the torch. And I would have to go there on my motorcycle every week, because there was just something that kept drawing me. And they said there was Miriam, which is a mermaid.
Yes.
And I just felt like at some point I was a mermaid. I'm so much involved with nature spirits.
Yes.
So I could not ever understand why, and now I truly understand. Over the years, I've begun to really understand why I was so drawn to those, that cave. It's phenomenal. So many people lived there over the generations, the centuries. The Indians, the slaves were put in there. That whole community are very much a part of it. And the water, it's incredible.
It is incredible, and a lot of people have woken up in the past few years to the Fae. More and more people have a belief, as the ancients did. I mean, if you go to Ireland 100 years ago, everyone would believe in the Fae and talk about the Fae, and it started to disappear. Although, funnily enough, if you had a fairy tree and you asked somebody to go and cut that fairy tree down, even if they said they didn't believe in fairies, they'd say, "I'm not touching that tree.
Yeah, right.
I'm not going anywhere near that tree."
Everybody's afraid of the mystics.
Yes.
The mystical.
Yes.
Because no one knows how to control mystical, and no one knows how to, live in it.
Yeah.
So,
for me, it's building relationship. I built relationship with the Fae.
And what is the Fae?
The fairies.
Oh, the fairies.
And they come in all shapes and sizes. They don't all have wings. It's an amazing relationship. And as I made relationship with the Fae, I made relationship with the dragons. A lot of people have been brought up looking to slay the dragon. And it's actually about befriending the dragon.
Exactly.
And as we do, and we make that relationship, see, for me, dragons are as real as you are. And I'm okay. I just have been living in the United States, or staying with friends, and one of the people at the place that I stay with, she works consistently with the Fae. She understands dragons and Fae. Her husband does not get it. And one night he looked at me and he said, "Fairies are not real." And I said, "You're right." He said, "What?" He said, "I thought you believe in fairies." I said, "I do." He said, "But you just said they weren't real." I said, "No," I said, "I agreed with your statement."
Right.
Because your perception is fairies are not real. So you are right. In your world, they don't exist.
Right.
In my world, they do. So we don't need to argue about it.
Exactly. Exactly. Wow, that's a wonderful way of saying it. Do you have any other concept of what you are all about to explain to the world?
Well, the most important piece is in the Celtic world, our heart is the bridge, and that's where Bridget lives. And Lou creates the rainbow with the help of Bridget. And most people think a rainbow is an arc. A rainbow is actually a circle. We only see part of the picture. And I love that, because it's always about the invisible realm. So I understand and feel, because that's where magic happens. I feel Bridget and Lou bringing that rainbow of light into my heart. And as we connect our hearts in authenticity, in integrity with this work, it shifts. And so that is my work. My work is about bringing my heart, bringing my voice, helping people own their voice, standing in their own power. Because as we stand in our own power and we open up not to be more important than anybody else,
Right.
to shine our light, as we all start shining our light more beautifully on this planet, it's luminous. And that's how I believe we'll evolve. I really believe as a race we have the opportunity.
The human race.
Yes. In this moment, we are moving into the lightest light and the darkest dark. And I really believe we have a choice. And I'm here, and I'm here to carry my light into the darkest places. It's not about going to the upper levels and missing the opportunity to connect, because I can only fly as high as my roots go deep. And so I am willing to walk into the dark spaces in myself, as we did the other night walking into that cave.
Okay.
It allows us to walk through fear, and so we can transform, transmute, and bring new life.
Oh my, Andrew. You have so much to share and to give to the universe. This is, I know we just touched a little bit of it.
A little piece.
But there's more to come.
I will never stop growing. How exciting is that?
Isn't that fabulous? Me either.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we'll never. And that's what life is all about.
Yeah.
It's not about all of the material things you have and this and the cars and so forth. It's about us growing and opening your heart and sharing with others and giving to others.
And you know what? The reason we could do the work was because you have done the work and you provided a safe container so I could come and offer a safe container in the safe container for the people to find their safe container so that we could shed, keen out our sorrow and be real with that and not be stuck in the story. We moved it so that when we sang Home the Souls, we started in sorrow and it shifted very quickly into joy because they were so happy. They were so full of joy to be going home.
Oh, yeah, the displaced souls were very happy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm very happy to have the opportunity to just speak with you for a brief moment. Next, well, is it 2017 you'll be back?
We'll be back. We're coming and I'll be advertising that soon. And I know we'll be coming many times, Jackie.
This is really, I am just so grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Oh, Puff the magic dragon, live by the sea. Well, in the autumn mist in a land called on a league.